500,000 people who started looking for work again. Freshman Republican Congressman Bill Huizenga of Michigan is on the Financial Services Committee, and he joins me now. Congressman, thanks so much for being on the program.
Hey, my pleasure. Thanks, Luke.
Let's get your initial reaction to the job number. 8.3% unemployment. It's the fifth straight month of declining unemployment, third straight month over 200,000 jobs added. We just had Mark Zandi on, who is an economist from the McCain campaign. He said that this is evidence that the stimulus is working. Do you see this as part of the stimulus working, or does this have nothing to do with Washington?
A couple of things, and I'm not as convinced that it's because of Washington, rather despite Washington, that we've seen a lot of this. And it's states like mine, back in Michigan with Governor Snyder, who have really changed the atmosphere there. Certainly my family's actually in construction. I'm a small business owner dealing with ready-mix concrete and sand and gravel, and we've seen a slight uptick. But I'm telling you, Luke, that cliff that we went off back a few years ago is dramatic. So it's going to take some time to come back on that. And if you dig into the numbers, there's another line that the Department of Labor releases, which are those people that have either voluntarily removed themselves from that search or are underemployed, and we still see that as way too high. That's more like 13, 14, 15% rather than this 8%. So it's positive, it's good steps forward, but certainly not enough yet.
Congress had, I would say, somewhat of a bipartisan victory yesterday, at least in the House, and that you guys passed a jobs bill, albeit on a smaller scale. But if you see numbers such as this, 8.3%, it seems to be moving in the right direction. You've obviously been an outspoken critic of the president. Would this perhaps inspire you guys, you think, in the House to try to come together in more bipartisan ways? Or are we looking at what happened yesterday as a one-and-done deal simply to try and change the narrative that, as Eric Cantor said yesterday, you guys needed a win?
Well, I hope it's not a one and done, because frankly, I'm not here for my party or Eric Cantor. I'm not here for the president or his party. I'm here for the people of the 2nd District of Michigan and for the American people. And we've put a tremendous number of things on the table, everything from what we believe are positive energy exploration ideas and Keystone and others to smaller things like this coming out of financial services. And, quite honestly, this is the Republican idea, the Republican plan. We're seeing the holdup really in the Senate. So now I think this was positive yesterday, some smaller steps, but we need those small steps because there's no magic bullet.
I want to talk to you a little bit about the transportation bill. This is something that has sort of ping-ponged between the House and Senate on Capitol Hill. Listen to Harry Reid and John Boehner yesterday.
We've had enough of this. The American people have had enough of this. So I hope the Speaker will spare the American people yet another unnecessary battle and pass the Senate's bipartisan transportation and jobs bill without delay.
We're going to continue to have conversations with members about a longer-term approach, which, frankly, most of our members want. But at this point in time, the plan is to bring up the Senate bill.
You're a member of the House GOP caucus. As you know, there's been a lot of disagreement about the size and scope of the legislation there. Do you think that you, as a House GOP member, if you're opposed to the Speaker's bill, are you guys risking not having your imprint on this legislation by having so much infighting? Speaker Boehner, was that a threat from him, do you feel?
Well, I don't feel it was a threat, but I can tell you there's a lot of us that are trying to get to yes on this. We think that, once again, the Senate sort of has a very narrow, short view. We'd rather see a longer term solution to this. But I think ultimately the American people are looking at it and saying, hey, guys, we've got to start spending money differently. 1, spend less. 2, spend it smarter. And that, I think, is what people are really looking for. For me personally, I would like to see more of that decision-making back at the state level to ensure that those projects that are moving forward have the support of the local governments and local businesses.
As you know, if the transportation bill is not passed by March 31st, the federal government would not be able to collect the federal gas tax on gasoline and diesel. Would that be good for the federal government not to be able to collect that tax?
Well, certainly we've got to have this system isn't going to just be able to fall off the cliff like that. So what we have to see is a transition, a ramp down, and a different way of doing it. So I don't think that that's actually going to happen. I think you're going to see something passed that's going to ensure that we don't have that happen, because there are legitimate national needs for that, whether it's our harbors, whether it's interstate transportation via the highways and those kinds of things. What people are looking for is making sure that there's no more bridges to nowhere, no more beehive museums jammed into a transportation bill, and those are the types of things that we need to make sure are not.
Do you support the federal gas tax?
Oh, sure. I think there's a portion of it, but here's the question: how do we deal with it, and how do we collect it? My preference would be to have it collected at the state level, and that instead of all of it getting shipped back to Washington D.C., where we have to have this battle. That's whether it's gone up from the high 80s, 88 cents to 90 cents to 92 cents to 94 cents, and we call those victories somehow. Rather than having all that power reside in Washington D.C., I would rather have it stay in the states, and then have the states send a portion to Washington, a penny or two or whatever that might be, to then really truly work on those national initiatives that should be there and are there. It's constitutional that we have the federal government involved in making sure that we're promoting interstate and intrastate trade.
Bill Huizenga from Michigan, we thank you so much for joining us this morning. Take care.
I appreciate it, Luke. Thanks.
How will Wall Street react to the new jobs numbers? The market